Hi, this is Dr. Scott, and today we're going to get into the Scott. You could say that funny in so many ways. The Dr. Scott short questions. There's people used to call me Snot all the time when I was growing up. Okay, so it's what about the market crash and when? So I'm going to show you the question here. So and I wish I could tell you who asked this question. My wife wrote them down. She sent them, and I'm trying to answer those questions as we go. Okay, is the playbook, which means the concept of what they knew was going to happen, right? The good guys, the white hats, going to crash the market, and if so, what will happen when Trump is 47? Good question. Okay, really, really good question. By the way, I want you to do me a favor and go over and like and subscribe. Kind of click on there. If you, it really makes a difference on there. But especially subscribe. I love it when you guys leave comments and ask questions with that stuff too. But like and subscribe. It will be a big deal for me. Okay. All right. So let's get back to our question there and bring it up on the screen. And let's answer that question, because one of the things I find fascinating is where the market is sitting today. So I'm going to bring this up on the screen here. And this is just the Dow. And I just picked, I'm going to click this just a hair. We're going to adjust the time frame. But I'm going to pick the Dow. Now, the Dow is, where most people think about the market and where it's been. Okay. So this time frame would be right before COVID or right after COVID kind of hits, right? So COVID's here and the Dow was 29K, right? And then not even weeks later, it's 19K. So it hits its lowest point of a very, very long time frame. If we went through, all time, this is when, and this is obviously not every single time frame, but you can see those spikes that happen. But this is one really big old nasty spike in there. Okay. So let's answer some of that question that comes in here. So what would happen in that spike? So when we look at what Trump was dealing with here, this is in the beginning of the COVID thing, and it starts to recover pretty fast. But you go, why is it recovering? I mean, listen, most of the businesses weren't recovering that fast. I mean, they didn't just like start walking back in the doors in my practice. When I looked at my own practice, we were struggling all the way through most of 22. I mean, 20, 21, 22 were all chaotic points. It was only until 23 when we really could kind of get people to, calm down, don't worry about, don't freak out about stuff. But why is the stock market going up when actually the world is going down? I mean, it made no sense. And then there was little tiny spikes here, and then boom, it goes higher when the debt ceiling is off the charts here, right? And it goes up to incredibly high numbers, spikes up right after Trump gets in office, and then kind of has a little bit of a correction. Okay, let's look at NASDAQ. Now, NASDAQ is the newer one. This puppy has been around for a long time, but again, the same kind of spike, post-COVID kind of spike. It goes up, but it's a little bit more reasonable because it starts to see the downtrend, right? It goes up here, and even that doesn't make total sense. But this is also when the idiots were spending money in ways that made no sense. They were making money hand over fist, but small businesses weren't. And then when people said, wait a second, I'm not doing this anymore, I'm going to change the way my habits were going. And this was when people really were struggling with that. Now, again, the struggle is even worse than before. And why don't they reflect that? You see, when we go into, even the stock market crash of 29, and we're talking about the Dow Jones, the $300 or 300 points, right? And it wasn't even very long. This is the very first, that little spiky point right here. I'll show you on the screen a little stronger here. Sorry. That spiky point right there is October 29. And it spikes up and then it goes down. Remember in the 30s, this thing goes worse in the 30s than it does in even the October, the red October, the black stock market crashing points, right? It's bad through this time frame. So we're talking about that is like a 200% drop, right? From 350 or 330 drop. I mean, whatever that number is, 300%. It's a long way down. And so, but then it starts to recover. World War II, pre-World War II starts to recover a little bit. It doesn't really recover until late in the war and after. This would have been Truman's in office after FDR's dead. And then in the 50s, when Eisenhower's in office, 52, that's when we see a real big spike because we were kind of seeing that post-market kind of issue. So once people ask this question, just an AI kind of question, you can kind of look up. A correction is 20%, but significantly less than that 20%. A crash is a decline of 20% or more. A friend of mine, Mark Z, and I both have said we kind of feel like the market is in for a 20 to 30% correction. Now, when you put fear out there that happened in the stock market crash of 29, you had a massive drop. I mean, this was a devastating drop. Now, it's possible that you could see the stock market here. This is the Nasdaq here at 19.5. So we'll just kind of do a brief calculation of that, right? So let's just say, well, how much would that actually be? So at 19,000-ish, and you have a 25% drop, that's 4,700, right? So, I mean, could that thing be sitting at 5,000? Or excuse me, 15,000? Possible, right? So you don't know exactly what that number is. The Dow, in that kind of way, if we just kind of flipped over here, sorry, I pulled it over the Dow, but you get the idea. If we saw a drop with 42K, not a correction, but a real stock market crash, 42,820 and a 25% change, that's 10,000 off. Well, guess what? Look at the time frame here, and the stock market was 21,000. Like, how does it? I mean, and even before when Trump was in office, he's 26,000. See, this is way overvalued. It's kind of like when you look at these cars and you see these cars and trucks and they're on their lots, and the $100,000 car, and like no one has the money to buy a $100,000 car, or not very many. And we're not talking about like just BMWs kind of thing, right? But when they've had these prices for and these ungodly numbers, no one can actually afford it. And frankly, very few people are actually affording things in the market. This is where they're sitting, but yet it's not reflecting the reality of the world. So what I'm trying to tell you here, guys, sorry, I'm moving this around here, is this. The stock market always reacts. It doesn't respond. When you were a kid, you're growing up and you reacted like a teenager. You said stupid things, right? I'm going to die if, that girl doesn't like me, whatever that thing is, right? That's the reaction that you see like a teenager or preteen kind of do. Response what happens when you kind of sit back and go, really, is it that bad? Your parents said that to you, your mom, your dad said, is it really that bad? Come on, chill out. Markets are only reactionary. They're that preteen. And the reality is that that's coming. It will come. It has to have this. We have to have not a correction, but a significant drop. Now that might freak you out. You're going, yeah, but a lot of my money's in the market. I understand. But guess what? You've got to have a changeover because it's not even reflecting the real economy. And you have to delete out the idiots, like the BlackRock, the Vanguard, and the State Street ones. Those actually make up so much of the market. Now, I believe that there's going to be a correction level, not a 1929 crash, right? But a big drop down 25%. But here's what happens. When the market drops by 7%, they stop the sales of anything if it's just like one company, right? X company has a drop, boop, you will see it close for about 4 hours. If it keeps dropping, if it comes back up, keeps dropping, they'll close it for a day or two. And so this kind of happens over time frame. I believe the stops will kind of hit at 20, 25, 30. It'll stay there and then it'll start to grow. So don't get too reactionary. Don't react, respond. Now, if you have your money in the market, realize if you want to kind of protect it, you can move it really simply. I'm not a financial planner. I don't play one on TV, but you can simply move it into what's called a money market. It's a really simple thing to do. It doesn't take you out of the market. You can just float it right over there. It's what I did I used to have about a third to 2/3 of my money sitting in money market kind of thing. I moved it all into gold and silver. It's just kind of what I've done. Okay. Can't tell you where to go with gold and silver. I've chosen not to do any marketing with this, but that's something you might want to consider. But here's the reality. Let's say you can't do anything about it. It'll have a drop, but I promise you, Trump's going to be in office. It's going to see a come up that is going to be wonderful for people. So to answer this question, do the White Hats know this is coming? Think about that for a second. Do you think they know this is coming? They know it's coming. So they have protections. I believe that they've had protection for a long time. They know what will happen. Don't get too, reactionary like the preteen. Okay. Now, I hope that gives you an idea, but you know what? The big thing is, helps me if you will just like and subscribe. We're going to keep answering a ton more questions. Thanks so much.